I can't join a D&D chat or a Discord server or community without seeing a bunch of chat about the OGL and still a lot of questions about what it is, what's going on. So in this, I want to briefly outline what the OGL is, what's happening with it, and some of the changes, my thoughts on it, and what I think may be happening in the future. Now, a quick disclaimer before we get started, I am not a lawyer, and I'm not going to be working through the official documents from Wizards of the Coast or the leaked documents in any sort of detail. There are some great videos, even by lawyers, that do that. This is more going to be a summary and an outline of this current situation going on. So for the first question, what is the OGL? It is an open gaming license that is about 900 pages long, designed to protect third-party publishers and content creators like Matt Colville or the Cobalt Press, and that's what allows them to create all of the D&D content that they create without getting sued or having to pay a hefty sum in royalties to Wizards of the Coast. Now, Wizards of the Coast has been using this OGL for a while, pretty much since they were under Peter Adkinson and acquired D&D from TSR, and it has been a huge boon to the D&D community and to their company. Part of the reason this has been so successful is that because whenever they put out some like a half-baked junk, similarly to Spelljammer, the community can and often will fix it. They will come out with rules and fill in some of the gaps they left, add lore and story and adventures, and really give the community things to do in those different settings, and it's been very beneficial for both sides. It's allowed the world of D&D and the community to grow a lot, and it's allowed the consumers and the community to make money off of it and to even build companies out of doing D&D stuff or creating content for D&D, and like I said, it's been a very positive thing. So now that we understand what it is, what is changing with it? Wizards of the Coast is taking that 900-word document designed to protect third-party publishers and creators and updating it to an over 9,000-word document designed to protect Wizards of the Coast. Now, that is based off of some leaked information that isn't 100% verifiable, obviously because it's not based off an official statement by Wizards of the Coast. But Wizards of the Coast has put out some official statements, and so we do know a few things that are definitely changing, which are in alignment with the leaked document. Basically, Wizards of the Coast wants their money. There's a lot of money going on around Dungeons & Dragons, and they want a larger cut of it. So if you make enough money, or if you have a business that creates content for Dungeons & Dragons, there are decent odds that you may have to be paying royalties, and rumors say up to 25% of what you make to Wizards of the Coast. Under this new OGL, the 1.1, they would also have more control over the content published under it, and they could take anything published under this OGL, use it however they want without paying you a cent in royalties. And then kind of the last major change is that it's specifically calling out that it's only for static documents like PDFs. This means that anything like a virtual tabletop probably wouldn't be covered under it, and anything like a website similar to D&D Beyond also wouldn't be covered by it, which kind of makes sense because they just bought D&D Beyond and they're planning on creating a virtual tabletop. So this might be where you ask, is this ethical? Should they be doing it? And I mean, it is their product, so ultimately that's going to be up to you to decide if they should be allowed to not let other people make money, or at least they get a larger portion of the money made off it. Now, before you say the Wizards of the Coast is an evil company and everyone working for them is trash, remember that the artists and the writers and a lot of the people that actually work on Dungeons & Dragons likely are not a part of this decision. For example, I don't know if Jeremy Crawford is really even a part of this decision. This is likely an executive decision made by the people running Wizards of the Coast. And it shouldn't be all too surprising when Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro had their campfire discussion and the CEO said that Dungeons & Dragons was under-monetized. That always sets off red flags for me when a CEO is like, yeah, we could probably make more money off of that. So whether this is something that they should be doing or whether it's ethical or not, that's ultimately up to you to decide, and you can let me know your thoughts on it. Now, for some of you aware of one of the biggest blunders from Wizards of the Coast, you might be asking, is history repeating itself? For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, 4th edition of Dungeons & Dragons bombed. It was pretty terrible, and there were a couple reasons for it. Most notably, they did not use an OGL. They used a GSL, which is a lot more similar to the updated OGL, which is basically we're going to make more money off of any third-party publishers and creators supporting it. And so none of them really moved over to 4th edition. They all just stayed on 3rd edition, or they moved over to Pathfinder, because this is when Pathfinder also took off, and so a lot of people went from Dungeons & Dragons over to Pathfinder by Paizo. Now, some of the reasons that people didn't like 4th edition, and there's a bunch of reasons, but some of the most notable ones, a lot of the third-party creators didn't move on to it, and so whenever like half-baked junk was put out, they weren't there to make it better or to fix any of this stuff, and I saw lots of complaints about there weren't a lot of adventures, or the adventures they had weren't great, or the settings didn't have enough detail, and all of that, which is what happens when you don't get all of your community to move forward and make more products and make more content for your game. So again, you might be asking, are we going to be repeating that with 1D&D? Sort of. Wizards of the Coast has actually learned from their mistakes, kind of. I think they looked at that situation and said, our mistake was we gave them the option to just stay on 3rd or 3.5 and not move forward to 4th edition. So with 1D&D and the new OGL, they are not releasing a GSL or a new OGL, they are updating the current OGL, which is where a lot of the arguments are breaking out on whether they can do this. Because the original OGL, the OGL 1.0 or 1.0A, it had language like perpetual, leading people to believe it was forever, which is why people built companies around it and did what they did, and it helped grow the community, and they thought that would be forever. And so now with Wizards of the Coast updating it, they're also saying it doesn't matter if you are still on 3.5 or on 5th edition, you're going to have to update to the new OGL 1.1 because it's an updated version. The old version is no longer authorized and basically means nothing. Which also could have some severe implications for even like Paizo and Pathfinder, who were created using that original OGL. And I think with this is where Wizards of the Coast are hoping that everyone just moves on to 1D&D, accepts it, and they get to make a lot of money and everyone just stays playing Dungeons & Dragons. Now, there are a lot of questions as to whether or not they are allowed to do that. With the original OGL and the way that it was phrased, there are questions whether they legally even can update it, or if they have to do what they did with 4th edition and create a new one that only applies to 1D&D. Ultimately, that will probably be decided in a court. At least I hope it does, because I would hate to see Wizards of the Coast just send out a ton of cease and desist letters and everyone just caves. I don't think that would be good for the community, and I don't even think that would work anyway. It didn't work for Lorraine Williams and TSR. I doubt it would work for Wizards of the Coast. So on to my thoughts on what I think is going to happen. Do I think Wizards of the Coast is going to turn into TSR and things are going to start going poorly? Not necessarily. And it's also too early to really say for certain, because a lot of this information, again, is based on leaked information, which gives Wizards of the Coast the opportunity to take a lot of this negative feedback that they've been getting and pivot. If the leaked information is true and they do push forward with it, I don't think it's going to go well for Wizards of the Coast. I think Dungeons & Dragons will still be on top for a while, but I think that similarly with Pathfinder, if they were to go down this route, I think a similar situation would happen where a bunch of people would move on to other games. Obviously, you're still going to have people that just enjoy Dungeons & Dragons or it's familiar and they're going to stay on it. It also has a lot of the name recognition for newer people coming in. But if everything they look up online, because all the other creators and everyone on YouTube are playing other games, it's going to be really hard for Dungeons & Dragons to grow. Though I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone, do not panic. Like tabletop RPGs are here to stay. They're not going anywhere. In a few years, it might look different and the name of the game you're playing might be different, but that's not even going to happen for a while. It's going to be a long time before really impactful things happen, so you can just keep playing your game. If you don't like the drama around all of this, just ignore it. Like I said, keep playing your game. If you do like the drama, jump online, argue with random people on the internet, have a great time. And I do think that it helps because it sends all of this negative feedback to Wizards of the Coast to allow them to take the opportunity to pivot. Now, unfortunately, companies are almost never honest, so if they do decide to pivot, it's not going to be thanks to all of your feedback and how passionate everyone was about it. We've decided to make some adjustments. It'll come across a lot more like gaslighting, where they're going to say something like, no, that was never our plan. We were not planning on doing that. That was all a lie. That's why you shouldn't listen to leaked information. Bob, delete all those emails right now. We never even considered doing that. Delete those emails now. Or at least something very similar to that is probably what we'll see if they decide to pivot and go a different route. But those are just my thoughts. Feel free to share yours in the comments. Or if you are looking at other tabletop RPGs, which ones are you checking out? I'd love to know.